Hi, it's Friday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're led by disabled artists and based in the main host borough of Newham, where we celebrated the London 2012 Paralympics, and we're busy building a cultural legacy. I'm Ju Gosling, artist and artistic director, also known as Ju90. With me today, as always, since she's locked down and has been since last March, is our chair, the artist and campaigner, Julie Newman. We'll come back to East London for some more introductions, a bit of audio description, and tell you more about today's show in a minute. We'll also tell you as we go what we're dressed up to go out to stay in to do, because this is something we do every Friday, having followed the example of New Zealand, always a good country to follow ever since lockdown last March, where they had formal Fridays. We take it a bit less seriously than that. We dress up to go out to stay in to do real or imaginary things every Friday. So, without further ado, over to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa to the West Midlands. They're going to give us some introduction, some audio description, and tell us what they're dressed up to go out to stay in to do.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Fridays Unlocked. So, I am Robin Surgener. I'm the business director at Together 2012. I am up here in Sutton Coldfield in our studio. Just to give you the setting, it's a lovely room which currently has our beautiful red velvet, deep red velvet curtains as our theatre backdrop, keeping us nice and warm. So, what do I look like today? Well, I've still got silvery grey hair. Um, and no rimmed black armed glasses. But then the rest of me's changed a little bit. So I will go through. I am dressed up to go out to stay in, but dressed out as if I was going to go to a Back to the Future convention um, and play a bit of dress up. So I'm actually going as Doc Emmett Brown. If you've not seen the Back to the Future films, I apologize, but if you do, you'll recognize that instantly. So I now have my silvery white hair as disheveled as I could make it stay up. It's actually a bit long to get it to stay up now. Um, and lots of back combing. So I'm going to enjoy my shower afterwards. Not. I am wearing obviously some. Um, well, we'll go with them as laboratory goggles anyway. They may have a dual purpose. And then a nice colourful shirt to kind of show off the um, odd nature of Doc Brown.
Hello, I'm Tracy Surgener, and I keep popping up now on a Friday to talk about the arts things I've been involved in. And what do I look like? I've got long blonde hair, um, pale skin, blue eyes. Today I'm wearing a black floaty blouse with a mixture of little flowers on it, beigey, yellows, whites, and orangey flowers, and a pair of very comfortable suede ish leggings, which are really soft and cozy.
Really
And are
good.
you dressed up to go out to stay in to do something special as
Well,
well?
as I've got quite a floaty blouse, it's got those floaty arms. I thought that maybe I would pop along to Stratford to the theatre to watch what's the famous,
Mid.
yeah, the Midsummer Night's Dream, as I feel a bit like a fairy because I've got the floaty blouse on.
That sounds incredibly civilized. I guess we should look up for later, if you're listening to this, Josh, what the Royal Shakespeare Company are offering online at the moment. But back to East London, Julie and I have decided it's time for some joint outfits. So we'll start with our audio description. Julie, what do you look like? What are you wearing?
Um, I look like one of the two lavender ladies. I've got a sort of lavenderish, strange hat. I've got
A bucket hat.
bucket
It's
hat.
a teddy bear bucket hat, I'll have you know, according to ASOS.
So that's how it's advertised. Okay. I'm wearing a lavender zip up hoodie with a purple sparkly stoned wrist bracelet, and I've got a white T-shirt underneath, and I've got dark rim glasses and bits of hair which are gold and silver popping out.
Thank you, Judy. I have a well, actually, of course, as always, the colours don't look quite the same on the TV. What Judy's wearing is actually much, much more purple than that. But I am more purple than her. I think I'm mauve. So I have a mauve bucket hat and a mauve woolly jumper on. I've also got pale olive skin, green eyes behind black plastic glasses, black plastic wrist braces, and silver coloured jewellery, which includes, as we had this discussion on Wednesday, a silver labris pendant, which is, as Robin described it, a lesbian axe. Sorry. And I too have a sparkly bracelet and indeed a rainbow coloured wrist strap. So we have dressed up as the very famous ladies of Llangollen. Llangollen? Come on, Julie, you pronounce it.
Llangollen.
And again?
Llangollen.
This is the lady who lived in Wales. So we'll tell you more about what we're going to see in Llangollen in after 3:30 for dressing up to go out to stay in. I have to ask this, Robin, have you actually been to a Back to the Futures convention?
Unfortunately, not. No, we've been to cosplay ones with Emily, which probably had some stuff there. I mean, it's very easy to feel very ordinary at a cosplay convention. I tell you.
You see, I've never been. I always feel like I've missed. I've either been at somewhere too early or too late. But in my younger days, I was a member of the Comics Creators Guild, and I used to go to all of these annual comic conventions. But we didn't have cosplay in those days. There'd be a few random people dressed up in superhero outfits that all the writers and artists would kind of look at like this. And yet in the last 20 years it's just exploded. So
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking before the show actually about drag queens and kind of gender issues and stuff. And actually, I think one of the things that cosplay can offer is for people to, at the least, be a little bit gender curious, because so many people dress up in so many different ways, and I'd actually probably say that there was a vast majority of people who were dressed as not the sex that they were or the gender that they were born with.
yeah, and I think more generally as well, I think men today in particular still have to conform to very, very sort of narrow fashion bands. And the cosplay pictures that I've seen are just incredible. It's a shame in a way that you can't go to a comic convention without dressing up now, because, like I said, my day, the bulk of people didn't. They just wanted to talk about the comics. But yeah, I mean, as I see them heading down to Excel, which has just got dreadful blue badge parking, or I would have been curious enough to join in. I mean, cosplay, Judy?
Yeah, I had a PA a few years ago who was really, really into it and did all sorts of latex prosthetics as part of a costume. There's so much work that goes into it. I just couldn't believe it.
No, this is the point where I kind of just share a little story from Judy's very many decades of campaigning and being at the head of committees and things. Which conference was it that you chaired in a full Star Trek captain's outfit?
It might have been the National Disabled Members Conference for, I think it might have been the last one of Nalgo or the first one of Unison.
Yes, so I kind of felt like you actually had more of an insight into cosplay than simply admiring PAs. I would have loved to have been at that conference.
What was interesting was nobody commented on it.
I can remember a really funny. Well, I won't sort the photos out, but Robin at the time was working for Coventry City Council, but then we were also really involved in campaigning, and off he went down the streets of Coventry in not much more than a plaited hair wig that covered his chest as Lady Godiva.
Speaking of gender play.
Yeah.
So I should have mentioned earlier, for anyone who's just joined us this month, one of the things we are celebrating and chatting about is LGBT plus History Month, and thus we are the ladies of Llangollen, and we'll come back to that after 3:30 with something for the weekend. Now we are going to move on to our weekly art club section. So we're going to start with a report back from this morning's Still Life session from Julie. Then we're going to have a little chat about the Make and Natter session they had on Tuesday. And then we're going to hand over to Tracy for some more recycled art. But apart from the Still Life, it's all based around recycled art. So if you've run out of art materials or never had any, keep watching. There's lots of ideas coming up. So how did it go this morning, Julie?
Oh, it was lovely. Hazel Brill led it. She's an artist, and she's also our youth or young persons worker. And she created the still life, which she put up. I don't know.
Yes, let me put the still life up now, and we will just audio describe it before we carry on. So there's it's a sort of classic triangular still life. There's a white wall, and that takes up about 2/3 of the picture. I believe Hazel is using something called the rule of thirds, where you place things at critical, something like this you might divide into sort of 9 invisible squares and place things on critical junctions. So on the right hand side there's an orangey brown sort of classic coffee pot. On the left there's a white bowl with, I think, 3 or 4 bulbs growing up. So you can see all of the green, but none of the flowers yet. And in front of them, in between them, there's a very nice mug, which has got blue with brown circles and a brown handle and a light brown inside. So I might just take that and pop that sort of, so it's not completely dominating the screen. And then you can tell us more, Julie.
So, as I say, Hazel led the group, and that was her choice of still life, which she created and put up for everybody to copy. We had I think there's a fairly constant group that come to the art club on a Friday. So there were 3 people who were constant, and they all saw the work in different ways. And Hazel actually commented on it. I think she was surprised at the range of perception that people were using in order to create a piece of art.
Yes, I'll pop those pictures up in a minute. Just to say, we have a highlights and links page, and every time we have a show, then by 5 o'clock, we aim to get the highlights and links page up. That contains links to everything we've discussed, and it also contains the images. You can find it on our website, www.together2012.org.uk. I'm going to put that up on the bottom of the screen later in the programme. And it's on the pull down menu under Together Unlocked TV. And what we do each week is include the still life photograph. So if you'd like to have a go at this picture, then the photograph will be there later. When you get to the page, it's quite a small photograph, but with all the images on the website, if you just click on them, you will get a much bigger version coming up. So
now this I thought was interesting because it was done completely with felt tip pens. And I thought I think his use of it.
I think that's
Oh, no,
Sophia,
that's
actually. Yes.
Sophia's, yes.
So that's Sophia. Yes. I mean, so it's very much a representation. Sophia's had to sort of choose single colours, very sensibly just left the background as white, put the foreground in black lines, and then has used quite a striking blue for the mug. Yeah, I think that's really effective, Sophia. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And this one was done with paints, I think.
I think it's some pen and some paint. So this
Yeah.
is Crystal Peasy.
And again, she's gone for the three distinct figures, but she's chosen not to put a horizon in, which I think gives it a very interesting perspective. It makes it almost 3D.
Right. Let me just take that off. And then this one finally is by Glory Sengo. It's not so clear because the light was behind him, but Glory's used felt tip and really filled the canvas, which is absolutely great. And I can't tell if it is a canvas. I think it's probably a sketchbook.
Yeah, it's a sketch pad.
And I really like the way Glory's put the foreground in as well. So that was this morning's art club. And then earlier in the week on Tuesday, they had the Make and Natter session. But I think this is a good opportunity to just tell you a little bit more about our clubs and to say they are freely available to any disabled person and whoever you want to join in with you within the house or wherever you're living. You don't have to live in East London. In fact, you don't have to live in the UK. As long as you can get access to a UK based Zoom or telephone system. The clubs are very much something that we would usually, well, I say usually we run them on Zoom. In the past, we used to run them on a weekday morning in East London, free for anybody who could get to East London. They were at least 2 hours long at that point, but that's too long on Zoom or phone. So the Zoom clubs are now an hour, and our pop-up poetry club on a Wednesday, which is a phone-based group where we call you and we pay for the call, is an hour and a half from 10:30 to 12. The other clubs are 11 till 12. We also, on the second Monday of each month, have Photographers and Filmmakers Club. And the fourth Monday, which is coming up next Monday, is our Dance on Screen Club. We have a member of the team, Noel Guinan. He's our engagement support worker, and he's able to give you all of the details. So if you go to our website, www.together2012.org.uk, look at the 2021 programme, click on all the different clubs, you can find out lots more about it, and the email address, although I'll also put it up on the screen, is there too. And you can always contact us on info@together2012.org.uk. And I just see in the live chat, Renee Wallen is saying lovely artwork. So thank you for that, Renee. So Tracy, do you want to just remind us what you told us about in terms of decoupage and make it, using it on jars and things to make holders?
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot last week about using things that we can find in the house and thinking about things in our kitchen particularly. So I started sort of having a look at what I could use and what different things I could do with that. Hadn't done any tea bag art, but had a look at that, and actually, they different types of tea. So you've got your green tea, your regular tea, your fruit teas. They can come up with some really pretty colour washes
Well, in
on
fact,
paper.
I'm going to come back to Julie because yes, that was one of the other things you talked about, and she tried it this morning. I'm
Ah,
just going to flag up first. Now, I think this is Glory Sengo, and what Tracy was talking about was using junk mail instead of
mm.
just throwing it away, cutting out the pictures, gluing them onto a jar, and creating some kind of holder. So this is Glory, who I think has actually done a bowl.
It's a tin, chocolate tin.
Oh, it's a chocolate tin. And what
Mm.
Glory's done is really focus on faces. So I'm just going to take that off. And this is
Ah,
Sophia. She has very much followed what you suggested last week. So I think Tracy looked at making a kitchen jar and a pen jar, and Sophia has done both of those things. And I can see on the photo, so Sophia's holding up on the right side of the screen the pen jar, on the left side of the screen the kitchen jar, and she's done like Tracy suggested and cut out pictures of food and used that to illustrate the kitchen jar.
That's brilliant. And I think what a really interesting thing to do and a unique thing to do. I mean, holders, we always need things in the kitchen, pens, pencils, utensils. So yeah, I really like that. I'm really pleased to see that someone's had a go at that.
And
Really
there's some,
good.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to have a go as well, because there's something about these things that the contents just keep expanding, don't they? One
Mm.
minute you think you've got new jars, and mugs with broken handles is a favourite of mine too. And the next minute they're falling over because they're just absolutely stuffed. I don't know where things come from. And then, of course, you want a pen that works,
Mm.
and then you find a way of emptying it all. But yeah, I have all sorts of little pots around the house and always running out of space. So we're going to talk more about recycled art now, aren't we?
Yeah.
And let me pop this picture up and you tell us about it.
Well, I particularly like this because, again, it's something that we've all got lots of, toilet roll holders or kitchen roll holders. What do we do with all these things? Yeah, they can go in the recycling. But I just thought this made quite a cute, and it's a picture of toilet roll holders that have been turned into like forest animals. So we've got a couple of foxes. They've been painted in pink or black, and then just got heart-shaped little faces. And then another piece of cardboard used to create a tail. I just think they just look really, really cute. I think you could do any animal that you liked, you could do and change the paint accordingly, whether it was a hedgehog or I suppose you could do a small bird. I just think they look quite fun, and you could make a collection of those. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just think they look good.
I think they're absolutely enchanting. Have you got more ideas? Because it looks to me like what they've done is taken the toilet roll holder, and is it pinched at the top
It's
to
pinched
close?
at the top to create the ears. Yeah. And then, it's you could use it for any animal, couldn't you? Any animal that you like the look of. I think it
And
looks
are
quite
the
cool.
tails cut out of another toilet roll, or is that any kind of cardboard or?
Any sort of cardboard, I'd imagine, thin cardboard and just sellotaped on the back. Yeah. Could
Yeah,
make a
I've
small
never seen it.
display.
I've never seen anything like it. I just think they're so simple and so incredibly effective, but also you can completely turn them into your own kind of stuff. And if you're
Yeah.
not great at painting faces, then as everybody knows, that jar of goggle-eyed sticky things always works wonders. So
Mm.
yeah, if you look at that and think, as I might indeed think, that seems to involve a great deal of painting skill, get the goggle eyes out. I know I will as well. So I'm going to take that off and bring up the next idea.
This I particularly liked. This is a picture of, it looks like it's bottle tops off your old-fashioned bottles of milk or Coke, that have been painted, or they might just have been covered, uh, with some different types of tape, and created a flower. So you've got, 6 bottle tops around one in the centre. There's one in the centre and then 6 that go around, and literally just stuck on a like a barbecue stick. Um, yeah, and just put in the garden. That could be in the window, small window box that you could make again out of your junk box. One in blue, one in yellow, and I just think they look really pretty. They just brighten things up.
I think they're so clever. And
Mm,
yeah, I think we're way off having sociable barbecues, but you never know come the
yeah.
summer. But of course, there's lots of drinks bottles have also got those little metallic caps. Mind you, I think again, because you were looking last week about different things you can do with plastic bottle tops, it's
Yes.
the same principle, isn't it? Have you got any idea how they join them together to make the flower shape? Because there's 6 bottle tops round one, so you need 7
Yes.
caps per flower plus a stick.
I would imagine with those being a metal type, they've had to use some sort of glue gun. Where if you're using the plastic ones, then I think just a decent glue would stick them together. I'm actually collecting plastic ones at the moment. We've got Lucozade, lemonade, Cokes. We've got a variety of colours, and when I've collected enough, I'm going to see what I can make, what creative thing I can do with them. So
Well,
watch this space.
yeah,
Very
on
good.
our website, we have a section that simply says join in from home, and there's links from there to all sorts of other activities. One of the activities is based on our recycled band, and our recycled band is a collection of 12 giant percussion instruments made from recycled building materials, essentially, and found objects. So the activity we have there is, well, in fact, I think there's a little bit more about it in a video that I'm going to put on after this section. But what I was going to say is the concept I initially had for our giant rain stick, which is based on a guttering pipe, was that these bottle tops would be ideal to trickle up and down. And we had volunteers going around the pubs because, of course, oh, it'll be so easy, we'll just use bottle tops. But in fact, it took weeks and weeks and weeks of collecting bottle tops from pubs. And then what we found, which again is why I'm a little bit more keen on the plastic bottle tops, is that because you've got the sort of serrated edges of the metal, they would catch on each other. And of course, they also started to rust. And I was so wedded to the fact, we'd put so much effort into the bottle tops. When we refurbish it, which is something we're hoping to do for next year because it's such a successful and popular outdoor project, I think at that point I might look at moving over to the plastic ones. But the other thing I wanted to just feedback about this is a couple of weeks ago, you showed us how to make 3D cards and 3D prints. And actually, you can do these, you can lay these flat, can't you? You can
Yes.
put them onto the back of an old cereal packet, for example. And it doesn't have to be something that's so robust it stands up and it goes out in your garden.
No, not at all.
So I'll take that off and then put up the next idea.
Now, this is something that I saw and I thought, wow, absolutely love this. And basically, it's just tins. So, your tins of beans or some kidney beans, whatever, different sized tins. And it looks like what they've done is they've sprayed them white or painted them white and then used a sort of stencil to make them look more like vintage. And I could imagine if I went to a vintage fair, I'd probably pay £10 for a set of tins that look a bit like this. So I'm thinking, what a great idea. Goes back to our jars, but very simple, but really, really effective.
And I think anything with tins, again, there just seems to be a constant supply, doesn't there? I mean, quite literally at the moment, apparently the market for tinned food has massively increased because so many people are eating at home who would have been eating out. So I'll take that off. And then speaking of eating, there's another eating related idea.
Yeah, well, when I saw this, now it's a glass. They've used a glass, and around that glass they've used the top part of a plastic spoon, so the handle's been broken off, and you've just got the actual spoon bit, and they've been spray painted gold, and then literally then stuck to the side of the glass. The first picture in the right hand corner shows the first petal. So they've used the top of the spoon as the petals and just worked it round the glass until they've created this beautiful sort of candle holder. Which I just thought, blew my mind. I thought, wow, how effective for something so easy that you wouldn't think of doing. And of course, great use for those plastic cutlery, which now thankfully has been banned. So there's going to be plastic cutlery going very cheaply, I think. So,
Yeah, and I think just generally, it's so much better to do something with it that isn't putting it into recycled or landfill. I mean,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
reuse plastic cutlery over and over again, but of course, it's a classic thing with spoons. The plastic spoons do break. I think what we next need to find is what you do with all of the stems. Renee
Mm.
Wallen has come back to say the stenciled tins are stunning and also said to us, love your coloured coordinated hats.
Those spoons look like in the sea you get little mollusks that
Mm.
sort of cling together and they grow together, and they look like that. They look really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing. I mean, there's just so much that we can do with recycled art,
Mm.
and I think so much that we will be continuing to do with recycled art in the
Yeah.
future. So, just before you go, Tracy, I realised that we didn't finish our audio description properly, and indeed, your medal bearing poodle teddy has appeared on your wheelchair. So, for anybody who didn't see Wednesday's show, our regular Clockwork Paralympics, where we have toys competing for the right of either our teddy or their teddy to wear a gold medal for the next week. We have one plastic medal and lots of teddies. They have a limited number of teddies, but lots of medals. So, in fact, what I would describe as a toy poodle is sitting on Tracy's chair wearing the medal. But it does allow me just to mention again the Pooch Perfect BBC show, which returned after a gap for the football last night. I've been watching it avidly for tips to cut the dog's hair. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, they had something called Asian freestyle dog grooming. And I found myself fantasizing about doing it to Julie's hair. So this is the information we're now in hands. So, as promised, I'm going to put a video on next just to tell you a little bit more about the Join In From Home program. You can watch the full video on the website and also find all of the activities there. www.together2012.org.uk. Thank you so much, Tracy. We'll look forward
Thank you.
to our club again next week.
Okay. Bye.
Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. So, for example, we have an arts club which usually operates on a Tuesday with craft based activities and on a Friday morning for drawing and painting. Here you can join in with the arts club's Hands project and celebrate your uniqueness and membership of the human race. There are full instructions on the linked page here. But essentially, we invite you to draw around your hand on a piece of card. It could be an old cereal packet. Cut the shape out, turn it over, and decorate it with anything you would like to do. It could be paints, crayons, glitter, collage, beads, leaves, anything you can think of. Photograph your hand or hands and send it to us at tv@together2012.org.uk. We'll add it to our video installation and share it on social media. Our music club usually meets on the first Friday of each month. We have an open mic session and we invite everybody to play along with percussion instruments. So here you can learn how to make your own percussion instruments from recycled materials. And you can also join in a percussion workshop from last summer in terms of carnival percussion. So these three instruments are used most often in carnival. We have a shaker and a go-go and a hand drum. So this is how to make a recycled shaker, a recycled go-go, and a recycled hand drum. You can also, if you're technically minded, make your own tactile sound instrument. This does require a few simple electronics, but is a very interesting and exciting project as part of our Vibrafusion ongoing work. You can also listen with Together. We have Spotify playlists created by Robin Surgener, also known as our TV presenter Angry Fish, and we also have 2 classical music playlists from Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, including one that's uniquely suited to people who are feeling very unwell. So we are back, and it's time for something for the weekend. But before that, we have a new host joining us. So over back to the West Midlands for some introduction and audio description.
Afternoon, everyone. I am Josh Surgener. I'm a PhD student and a Together Unlocked host. I have long blonde hair that's kind of swept over to one side. I've got a little bit of kind of ginger facial hair growth. And today I'm wearing a black t-shirt that has a gold star on it, and a man standing on top of that gold star with an arm in the air. And then you can't actually read it, but it says Hamilton across the star.
And what are you dressed up to go out to stay and to do?
I am dressed up to go to Broadway and watch Hamilton, the musical, or on Disney Plus if you can't get tickets.
Yes, or more to the point, if you can't afford the ticket to, to New York. Not that we'll be doing that anytime soon anyway. Just to go back to the film we've just seen about the Join In From Home programme, for LGBT plus History Month, we also have 2 special playlists that Julie has produced. I think one is clubs and one is lesbian songs. So that those links will be up directly under the highlights and links page. Also, as we said, I think earlier in the week, or possibly even last week, the Vibrafusion Vibe site is currently offline in Canada, but it should be back any day now. So that is still very much an ongoing project, but they had some domain registration problems and had to take it down temporarily in Ontario. So we said we would talk a bit more about what we were dressed up to go out to stay in to do. So do you want to start by telling us who the ladies of Llangollen are? Or were, I should say.
Yeah, were indeed. They were 2 ladies who were born 15 miles away from each other in Ireland in the 1700s. They were both quite well heeled, so to speak. They were they came from very rich and sort of landed families, and they didn't want to get married, and in order to escape getting married, they left Ireland. They'd been together for 10 years, I think, from 68, and they left in 1778. There were 16 years between them, so one was older than the other. And they decided to go to Wales, I suppose because it's quite close to Ireland, isn't it, when you think about it? So they went to Wales and they drove around and sort of had a look to see where they wanted and where they felt comfortable. And they ended up in Llangollen. And they bought a cottage, which they expanded and did up and turned it into a classic sort of Gothic mansion. It's called Plas Newydd in Llangollen, and it features with tours and all that sort of thing on the website. And they lived together for 50 years. They brought a maid over, a lady servant, came over from Ireland and was obviously very loyal. But they created one of those hubs for talented people to drop into. There was a family link with Caroline Lamb. So you had Byron and the Romantic poets dropping in. You had people of science. It became a really interesting place to hang out.
Just like home, not perhaps, but and am I right in thinking that in more usual times the house is a museum or?
Yes, I mean what I really like is how Wales welcomed this odd couple. It was never really stated that they had a lesbian relationship, but they effectively had a marriage, if you like, because they signed their letters jointly. They did everything together. And as I say, they were together for 50 years. So Wales really welcomed them, and so much so that Wedgwood and the various potteries put out, uh, commemorative pots with them on it, and they created a following, sort of that's come down through the centuries, and they're still written about, and there's plays written, and there's a lot of interest in these what could be seen as quite eccentric women.
So, if yes, just like us. So, if you want to find out more about the ladies of Llangollen, that will be on the links. We, for the weekend, are virtually going to Llangollen. There isn't a virtual tour of their house, but there is another reason why Llangollen is very famous. In fact, I'm sure most Welsh people would say it wasn't for the ladies of Llangollen, but because it hosts every year the International Eisteddfod of Welsh Culture. What happened last year, of course, was that they couldn't hold it. So they had a virtual Eisteddfod looking back at previous performances, and then they gave awards for the best based on all of those previous performances. So there's something called like Llangollen TV. So the bulk of the Eisteddfod does not remain online, but the winning performances, the videos that were chosen as the best of the virtual festival, all remain online for virtual Llangollen. So I'm intending for the weekend with my Lady of Clanning Town to be watching some of that. So let's have something from the week, something for the weekend from the West Midlands.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Um, one I've put up, the first one I've got is actually for an online show which is called the Comedy Cabin. It is on a Friday night, so if you're interested, you need to we'll get that link up and you can follow it through. It costs as much as £3 to take part, or as little as £1. Um, and it's hosted by Pete Wells. I mean, it's written as if everyone knows who that is. I don't, but there you go. Um, and it's from a comedy club. It's actually in East London. And it says on the if you follow the web link that actually you can enjoy the show from your home, but if you order early enough, you can have um, drinks and beverages delivered to you. If you're obviously they've got some kind of notion of how fast near enough. Um, but they're doing 90-minute shows every Friday of February and March, with comics, and comedic discussion. I think would be the best option to describe it. It says that the virtual doors open at 7:59 for some pre-show entertainment and ordering, and indeed starting at 8:30 till 10 approximately, and it looks like it could be really good fun.
I think it sounds great, and what a great way for a venue to operate. Stream the entertainment and deliver the food and drink, and I think we'll be seeing much more of that before we get anything back to anything like what was usual before. What else did you have for us, Julie?
I noticed that the Royal Maritime Museum in Greenwich is really has gone all out to celebrate LGBT History Month, which I was thrilled with. What I liked a lot was that there's activities for all of the family. It's not age restricted, so that there's things for families to make. You can make badges, you can make little boats, rainbow badges and rainbow boats, obviously. But there's some nice bits of history. the site itself I thought was really quite extensive, and I didn't want to focus in on one thing because I think it's well worth checking it out.
Yes, I mean, something else. Well, the last thing really for LGBT plus History Month this week is a festival has just started called Outing the Past. Outing the Past is an organisation that delivers events all year round, but their main festival takes place in February each year, and then they have a conference of historians in March. The way it's working this year is I think there's 9 what they call hubs, which include Bishopsgate Institute, the London School of Economics Library, and where I was fortunate enough to go virtually this morning, Ancient House, which is part of Norfolk Museums in Thetford in Norfolk. And that was being organised by the Ancient House Teenage History Group. It was a fabulous morning. That wasn't a public event, but most of these hub events, and I'm speaking at another 4 of them in the next week, most of these hub events are public, and everything Outing the Past does is completely free. So again, we're going to put those links up. I've got a contribution now from Steraplergia for anybody who's still got snow and ice, or otherwise save this activity till the next one because there's bound to be more before the spring.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Stara, and this is
Mo.
Merlo
Do.
the dog. And you made ice. It was good. I hung up water on the tree. It was really good. I made a house for
Mo.
Merlo
Do.
the dog out of
No.
snow and ice.
Do I just have to say that is so sweet?
Yes, for anybody who couldn't see that, they created icicles by filling bottles with water and hanging them up in the trees to freeze. And then they made snow bricks and effectively sculpted a mini igloo for Merlot, but fortunately without a roof, or at least they didn't film as far as a roof. Yes, I thought that was incredibly sweet. Does anybody have more to recommend for the weekend from the West Midlands?
I had a couple of things. One was a sport one, which was the Netball Super League. We actually started last weekend, but it's all being streamed for free on Sky Sports YouTube channel, and kind of every match. Which one, it's great for it being 3, but also there's not a lot of women's sport going on. For example, the men's Six Nations is on, but they aren't running the women's Six Nations, which is a separate conversation. But you know, it's not ideal. So the fact that there is some women's sport that's being, you know, broadcast and for 3, it's good. And if no one's ever watched netball, top quality netball, kind of at the level that the Super League has, is quite exciting. It's really fast. And if anyone's ever kind of seen it at school and went, I'm not watching that, it's pants. Like professional netball is pretty quick, and quite good fun to watch.
Well, obviously, my mobility and eyesight isn't the best, but I used to find primary school netball quite alarming, the number of times the ball would hit you in the head. That's not really a spectator sport, perhaps.
Um, and then the other one is it's kind of sport adjacent, but it was a book that speaking of books on Wednesday, a book that I came across through some university work. The guy that wrote it's giving a talk in a couple of weeks, and it's called "Endure Body, Mind, and the Elastic Curiosity or Curiously Elastic Human Performance." I can't remember the title now, but it's all about kind of people's ability to push through things. And it's quite an interesting book, but I'm listening to the audiobook version, and the narration of it makes it so much more kind of engaging. It's narrated really well. Um, so the first chapter is on running and kind of people running the mile, but then the second chapter is all about exhibitions to the South Pole. Um, and that's as far as I've got so far. Um, but it sounds like a really kind of interesting book. But again, I think how the stories are told and how they're written, and the narration kind of really makes it quite engaging. So yeah, if anyone's interested in some engaging stories, that would be a good book to read.
Yeah, there's something I think always very appealing about being cozy and snug at home and reading about other people doing really extreme things in difficult conditions. Julie, did you have anything else for the weekend you wanted to recommend or anything you're going to do yourself?
I'm working on a tea painting, which I'm going to carry on working on over the weekend. There's several things, a couple of hints very quickly. Don't use used tea bags because they tend to break and you get tea leaf all over your painting.
For anybody who thinks, well, of course, you can think what you like and it might well be true anyway, but we had a conversation in the art club last Friday about what you do if you've run out of paints, and we looked at some, well, I think they were all serious suggestions, but Julie has been taking up the experimenting with tea. So what does work? Do you actually paint with cold tea?
Um, no, what I did was I got a jar of water. I haven't finished. This is where I want to progress it because I've used tea bags, and I made a wash, and then I wrung them out, and I used the tea bags to make marks. But I think what I would like to do is to try a fresh tea bag. I'm so mean. I didn't think I could use up a tea bag for a painting. I thought, oh my goodness, that's so wasteful. You cannot waste these things. But I think I might just bite the bullet and go for it.
Oh, go on, I'll stand you a tea bag.
Thank you, Julie.
I will say, I mean that I took Emily Patton when we were as part of our homeschooling to a Victoria. It was a day on the suffragettes. Actually, it was and they did they wrote a scroll. She wrote a scroll using a paintbrush and tea. Um, and actually they used probably like 3 tea bags. Just but we'd paid £10, so that got us our 3 tea bags, I think. But actually, it was really good. I mean, and she really enjoyed it. And it's very effective, and it gives um an immediate kind of sense of aging as well, which is quite good. I have one other thing for the weekend as well, which it's a little bit niche, a little bit narrower than the normal stuff we talk about, but in terms, it's a visual arts thing. um is that for the Coventry biennial celebrations, they've just announced a visual arts commission, um and they're looking for deaf and or disabled artists. I will say it does say that they would like a West Midlands artist. However, we're broadcasting nationally, and I think it's a really good opportunity. I mean, it's a it's a funded opportunity. There's a commission fee and um, making like a quite a
Brilliant.
good pot of money for materials and access and all the rest of it. So there's a link to that. I mean, I think the closing date is the 6th of April, and it's been done by the Coventry City Council, Dash, which is Disability Arts Shropshire, and Talking
Oh,
Birds.
brilliant. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think Dash is an excellent organisation. We're going to have to bring this to a close because otherwise we won't have time for live music from Robin Surgener, also known as Angry Fish. On Monday, as usual, the show will include our weekly app date. I'm actually looking at auto cue apps. You might not be so surprised to find out. We've been talking about photography apps, filmmaking apps, and all sorts of other art apps. We will also be relaxing with our chatting about film and photography and probably the odd anarchic appearance by a cat in one or more studios. Josh, do you have anything else you're going to deal with next week for us to flag up?
We have Sport and Gaming on Wednesday, and we also have our Clockwork Paralympics on Wednesday as well. And we're hoping to continue our streak of 2 wins to make up for our streak of 847 losses. So
Well, you'll be glad to know there are new Clockwork competitors de-quarantining by my front door as we speak. So we will be retiring the Winter Paralympians again till next year, or possibly longer, and bringing in new Clockwork toys. If you'd like to join in the Clockwork Paralympics at home, look on the highlights and links page. You'll find a film up with full instructions with how to join in. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from us in East London.
Goodbye to Renee.
And yes, and thank you, Renee, who says, thanks for a super show. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Yes, absolutely. Stay home, stay creative, and stay well.
bye, everyone.
Okay, so let's get down to this so we don't overrun. This is a song called Awakening, and it's about just recognizing some of the things that are going on around you. Went out to a club just the other night to dance with my mates, not getting into a fight, but I must have smelled a petrol. I really think I must, cause they wouldn't let me in. I might spontaneously combust. I must have smelled a petrol. I really think I must, cause they wouldn't let me in. I might spontaneously combust. It's unjust. Bought a new car, wasn't special, met my needs. Got out the yellow pages to get insurance leads. But my driving must be awful, dangerous perhaps, cause they wouldn't give me cover and they treated me like crap. My driving must be awful, dangerous perhaps, cause they wouldn't give me cover and they treated me like crap, like crap. Crap. We're looking for a holiday at the local Thomas Cook's. Lots of stupid questions, in the end they let us book. On the plane where I was seated, wasn't bad, it was the worst. But I think it was a privilege, cause I get to die first. On the plane where I was seated, wasn't bad, it was the worst. I think it was a privilege, cause I get to die first, die first. Die first. Thought I'd get a job this week, give up my JSA. You think I'm at the jobs? Thought it was Judgment Day. They asked if I did magic, they asked if I did tricks. They think they are comedians, I think they're thoughtless fools. They asked if I did magic, they asked if I did tricks. They think they are comedians, I think they're thoughtless fools. I started acting at myself and at these negative vibes. I felt a boiling down inside to negate these nasty jibes. This is my new beginning, no more fear and trepidation. To label me, to deny me, has led to my awakening. This is my new beginning, no more fear and trepidation. To label me, to deny me, has led to my awakening. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Goodbye from Together Unlocked.